there are also so many types of meditation, right? So you see meditations that are very guided, you see visualizations, you see meditations with music, without music. How do we find the right practice for us?
I think we have to ask ourselves, what do we want, first of all? Like, what is it that we're trying to achieve? Some of us will come into contact with it serendipitously, like I was, like, I found a meditation teacher straight away. Sometimes your girlfriend or boyfriend will drag you to a class and you're like, oh, there's something in this. Sometimes you hear something on YouTube or you listen to a podcast and it's like, oh, wow, I'm curious about that. So how we enter in really determines like our first kind of touch point with the practice. But in terms of choosing, like, we have to get really clear on what is it that I want. Do I just want to feel good? Or do I just want to sleep, for example? And in which case you might choose like relaxing yoga nidra practices and, down regulative practices. If it's, I'm so confused and I'm lost in my life, then you want to find a teacher and a practice and a lineage that really helps you understand your mind. So Buddhism or Vedas might be like a way of practicing. It's getting really clear and then doing the research to find, okay, what is the path that I want to follow? And I really advocate for a path or a lineage because I feel like there's so much you can learn and grow from that way, as opposed to kind of showing up to do 5-10 minute practice, which aren't bad, which are a great place to begin. But eventually you want to study something or follow up in the footsteps of people that have done this for 3,000 years and have proved that there is a way to be supremely and infinitely happy.
Is there like after a certain number of minutes that you just drop in deeper? Like if you don't do it for at least 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you're not going to get the full benefit?
No, like I think I've had practices where I've sat for 3 hours and I've just been like, when is it going to get easier? Like, am I just wasting my time? And I've realized I've been thinking about shoes for like the last 45 minutes or something like that. It really depends on the day, like what's been happening, what's going on in your life, what's going on in your mind, the circumstances. I think in my experience over teaching the last decade, people tend to have that drop in feeling after like, 8-9 minutes. But again, that's not really the point, right? The point isn't, especially in the Buddhist tradition, it's not to feel good or to have deep experiences. It's to understand the mind. And so if we can understand our mind and the resistance we're having at that moment, then you could argue that is a pretty profound experience.
So in the Buddhist lineage, you would not do a manifestation meditation per se. It would be more of just witnessing, oh, wow, my thoughts are really thinking about shoes today, just having more of an inquiry, correct?
Yes and no. Like it depends in what traditions. In the tantric lineages and the Vajrayana practices, there is like envisioning like your future self practices that you can do. In the Theravada, which is the more traditional practices around Thai, Burma, and Sri Lanka, it's more practices that really cultivate the mind, like concentration and vipassana. And there are, in the Mahayana, which is Tibetan practices, a little bit of a blend of both, but really focusing on compassion-based practices. So it's not necessarily just concentration-based. It's, we often refer to it as awareness and compassion. Like those are the two things that we tend to cultivate.